everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of the Coles Brown Show, broadcasting live right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. It's championship day in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. A winner, a champion, will be crowned today. Will it be Alcorn State University? Will they go back-to-back as far as football championships? Or will Southern University, who made it to the championship game last year, will they be able to get over the hump this time and win the 2019 SWAC football championship? The winner of this ball game will go on in 2 weeks to face North Carolina A&T in the Celebration Bowl, which kicks off the college football bowl season. It should be an outstanding opportunity for both teams, and hopefully, just hopefully, it'll be an outstanding football game full of action, hard-hitting, adversity, and accomplishment. That's the way we're going to put this or frame this football game today. 3 p.m. on ESPNU. Alcorn State University hosts Southern University of 2019 SWAC football championship. Today's guest menu looks like this. We're going to move around a little bit. In hour number one, I'm going to talk with Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. He'll be coming to you live from the campus of Alcorn State University. Then following Brandon B.J. Jones in hour number two will be Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. I'm on the injury reserve list today, so you may notice I'm not going to be in Lorman, Mississippi, but I'll be there in spirit as a graduate of Southern University 2010, the summer session. I'll be there in spirit. The Jaguars trying to get it done. But to do that, the Jaguars had to win a football game last week. And unless you were not conscious, you were on another planet or something like that, Southern University, it came down to Southern University and Grambling State University in the 46th annual Bayou Classic. And it was a thriller. Southern University defeated Grambling State 30-28. And that set up today's game with Southern and Alcorn State. With the victory, Southern over Grambling State 30-28. The Jaguars moved to 8-4 overall, 6-1 in conference play in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Grambling with the loss. Their winning streak was put to an end. They finished the season 6-5 and 4-3 in the conference. A strong attended game again. 68,314 fans packed it. The ball game was on NBC Sports Network. And for the Jaguars, just quite simply, they did not come out sharp. They fell behind 21-3, and it looked dim. I'm just going to be flat out honest with you. I was getting ready to start making phone calls congratulating the Grambling Knights that I knew personally, but I didn't do it just yet. A score for the Jaguars right at half brought them within 4 points, 21-17, and you can tell Big momentum was there. Then it was back and forth in the second half. It comes down quite simply. Grambling State University was going to attempt a 40-yard field goal. Coach Odoms called 2 consecutive timeouts to try to put them to ice the kicker. And then the kick was blocked. The Jaguars had won the football game 30-28 over Grambling State. Unbelievable. Skelton, no turnovers. Southern, a strong running game, which they will have to do today as well. We'll talk all about that. We'll get Charles Edmond and Brandon B.J. Jones perspective on this ball game. We'll visit with Dr. Prince, get his perspective on this championship game coming up. And also, Grambling State in the Bayou Classic. So one of the things when you look at it, the Jaguars, an emotional game last week, Alcorn is off. I'm sure they enjoyed the rest. Now the Jaguars, no rest, but physically, they've got to come and play a game today. And then mentally, where they're going to be. You would really believe that they're going to be fired up. Look, you have a chance to accomplish a couple of goals. One, a SWAC football championship, and then you get a chance to go to the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta. Quite simply, every team, that's their goal, to get to Atlanta, to win the SWAC football championship. But a fan base that is basically just starving for a championship. And here's the thing. Last year, you get right up to that point, and you finish second. So I think the thirst is there. What kind of game plan that the coaches will have? And we talk about the players executing and executing the game plan. But what game plan that Southern University coaches will have for today's game? Now, the last time they played, Southern was winning 6-3 at the half against Alcorn State on the reservation, and they were not successful in that ball game. They simply were not. 27-13, they lose by 14. But you came away from that game feeling a couple of things would have happened. Southern would have kind of stuck with the running game. Skelton was pulled out the game, put back in. Southern drives on the first drive all the way down the field. And then, which the coaches said they saw a chance to execute this play with a halfback pass. I'm still puzzled on that one, but hey, that's history now. But they come away with no points. And then Skelton comes in on the last drive for Southern and completes a touchdown for them, leading them down the field. Skelton, you got to ride him all the way today. That's your quarterback. And I'm going to give you some statistics that Southern has a chance to have a player with over 1,000. He has over 1,000 yards passing now, 1,400 and some change. If he has a big game today with his legs, he will have a chance to be a 1,000-yard rusher and a 1,000-yard passer in the season. And with Devon being a big game, Southern could have possibly two 1,000-yard rushers. But I'll be throwing and mixing in those different little points, some SWAC championship notes. I'll give you all of that. That's coming up on today's show. If you want to participate in the show, there's a couple of ways you can do it. I have the Coles Brown Show Facebook page. You can leave me a message there, a question or comment, Facebook Messenger. You can do it that way. And also the Coles Brown Show at gmail.com, and also on Twitter, franchise_show. You just type in Coles Brown Show, it'll pull you right there. Got a couple of messages coming in as I speak. So, to set it for you, Southern and Alcorn State. X8, the 2019 football championship. It should be a outstanding game. 3 p.m. on ESPNU. Tiffany Green and Jay Walker on the call. Let me visit now with Dr. Michael Prince. I call him Brother Michael Prince. Sometimes I'll call him a doctor unless I disagree with him, then he becomes brother. But good morning, hey, Brother Prince. How you doing, sir?
You're disagreeing with me already. You're offering up with brother. Good morning, brother. How you doing today, man?
Well, I did say doctor first.
then you said, well, good morning, Brother Prince. How you doing? So I guess you disagree. It's all. You know what? I've been up tossing and turning, so I know you've been up tossing and turning, man. This game, it's hard to pick 'em. It's to me, it is a pick 'em, but what an exciting time. 3 o'clock, it's going to reveal everything. It's going to reveal everything.
So in other words, you're saying you can't get a feel of who you're going to pick for this game. Well, do like some. Hey, I'm just going to be there and analyze the game or watching it on television and see who wins. But I understand, how you feel. You kind of going back and forth. For me, and I'm not going to bring this up. I'll mention it too many times. At least hold me to that. But
okay, I will.
Southern has not been successful against Alcorn State. We all know that. But then you kind of you have that in mind. Then you look at in October 26th. You saw a Southern team that's winning at the half, but in the back of my mind, I only can speak for myself. I knew Alcorn State was going to make some adjustments. They're good at doing that, and Southern's going to get their best shot in the second half. We saw that. And then you go back to the championship game last year, where it was back and forth. Alcorn gets a bit of a cushion. Southern fights back, like you saw last week against Grambling State. So with that being said, and then there's, let's just be honest, there's talk on social media. North Carolina A&T fans, they're hoping that it's a different team that they face. You hear the talk about, wow, if Southern can get there, what kind of crowd they can bring. But at the bottom line, Brother Prince, is simply the team that wins it and he wants it and executes, that's the team that's going to be there. And if we know North Carolina A&T has already punched their ticket to the Celebration Bowl, the final team will be decided today.
Absolutely. And that was part of the dilemma for me as far as picking a clear-cut winner. When you look at this thing from top to bottom, I kind of broke this thing down into 5 categories. Offense, defense, special teams. Those were the obvious 3. And when you finish it up, I even added, and this is going to sound crazy, I added coaching, and then the one that's going to probably make you scratch your head was a need. A need. And here's where I go with a need. We know that both of these are pretty good coaching staffs, or they wouldn't be where they are today, going into today's event. We agree with that, right?
They're the top 2 teams in the conference.
Yes, sir. Top 2 teams. And I think we would have an overall consensus that no one would disagree with that. Even Grambling, if they're going to be true to themselves, that these are the 2 best teams in the Southwestern Athletic Conference meeting for the championship. So we can agree on that. And when I looked at, on a scale of 1 to 10, of course 10 being the largest factor, defensively, I gave Alcorn a +2. Okay? And then when it came to offense, believe it or not, I got both of these guys marked at even because both of them have been like a roller coaster, hot and cold. 1 minute they're looking explosive, then the next minute they don't even know which way is the right end zone. And then special teams I have at even. Why? Because at least 2 or 3 points throughout the course of the season, you've had some pivotal special teams played that determine the outcome of some of these close games that both of these teams have been in. Coaching staffs, I think both teams do an exceptional job at adjusting, in particular, during the course of a game, even though some may agree to disagree. And these guys have both dynamic systems, McNair and Odom, as far as plugging people in to get the job done. Then it came to that need factor. And Alcorn needs this in the way of continuing the magical season with what Felix Harper has been able to do. And then Southern needs this thing because of Odom to get not the monkey off his back, but the gorilla off his back so he could have a true waiting to exhale moment. So it has me torn, brother.
Well, as I've stated before, Southern University, you could easily say that they've accomplished being second or having a chance to win a championship. They've been there. Under Coach Odoms, they've won one against Jackson State. Then the following year, they lost to Alcorn. Then last year, they made it back to the championship game. And then this year, they've made it back. So they're getting there. All they have to do, in my humble opinion, is kick the door in. They're in the position. They're right there. So for many, that's great to be at least in that position. It's better to get there and lose, I guess some would say, than not get there at all.
And then it's also like that Buffalo Bills syndrome. How many times we going to get here and keep being the first loser, which is considered as second place?
And then that's when you're going to have a lot of supporters and fans that are not going to be happy. So they're right there to get it done. At about, I guess, 6:05, 6:15, 6:30, we will find out. We definitely will find out. But they're in a position 2 years in a row. And what you don't want to have is, it's kind of what you kind of alluded to. You get there, and you don't have success. You say the Buffalo Bills, I can go another one. The Minnesota Vikings, a team I just loved growing up. 4 Super Bowls, I believe.
Actually,
hurts,
5. Brother. I think it was 5 they've gone to. It might have been 4. I don't know. But they hadn't won.
4 or 5. You don't want to be the team. You don't want to be the program known to get there and not get it done. So Alcorn needs this game. They won another shot at North Carolina A&T. They figured they probably were the better team last year. They came up that close.
Mm-hmm.
They want to get back. Southern needs it, what we just talking about, to get the Alcorn, the big giant, off their back. They need it as well. A toss-up, some people have said that. Some will give Alcorn an advantage because they're at home. Mm-hmm. But they earn the right to host it.
Now, I know you've been on record since before the SWAC Media Day. Is
Atlanta
or bust?
Still stick to that.
Well, that's what I was just about to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not make it today, does that change the body of work that Odom has achieved this season?
In my eyes, it's a bust because on paper and then predictions, what I saw coming back, this team had all of the ingredients to get to Atlanta. Now, that's my goal. If they don't make it, then they didn't make it. It's bust for me. But now, they made it back to the championship. And if they lose, then they've lost 2 years in a row. But they've made it there. I'm frustrated. Just me. I don't speak for myself. I'm still frustrated. My ultimate goal for them was to Atlanta or bust. So, yeah, I'm still sticking to that. But some people will disagree with that. They may say, Carlos, you're crazy. They made it to the championship 2 years in a row. They just fell short again. But I wonder how many people would feel that way if they don't get it done. And then you get another opportunity to perhaps face Alcorn early again next season. And if you have your way of getting back to the championship and maybe hosting, you may host Alcorn, Alabama A&M next year. But I've got to stick to my guns.
Okay. Now, with that being said, you and I and everybody else in SWAC Nation has, uttered these words. Do you fear that if you have a knee-jerk reaction in the event that Southern loses, that you pull the plug and then you end up with now the Odom curse, as such as Jackson State is suffering from the Comegee curse?
You're asking me, will they
No, if they were to go and say, you know what, they just have pitchforks and fires and say, that's it, enough is enough, we got to turn the page. Do you think that would be premature?
I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay. Well, some people will echo that.
Well, and you hear the conversation, well, you don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction. It'll be the same thing as Jackson State and what they're going through. But now, again, I'm saying that was my theme for the season. It's Atlanta or bust.
But I'm sure there are other people who echo your same sentiment. I know that for a fact.
I'm going to say that again. I'm sorry.
I know that there are other people who are echoing the very same thing that you're saying, and here's what people need to remember. Others will sit in the troll benches and kind of watch and speculate and play both sides. But we simply speak what half of them are thinking, but just won't say publicly.
Well, listener, Henry, thanks. He said, good point, but if you don't make it with all that talent, then answer is why. Odoms will have to make changes on his staff. That's an interesting and good point. So you remember you just asked, well, what will be the reaction? It'll be frustration, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you've seen that in sports and on the collegiate level and on the NFL.
Right.
Then hey, you got to make some changes, coach. And would you be willing to do that? Hey, I hope Southern goes in and just shocks the world to something and come out with a victory. I'm still looking for an exciting game and for Southern to come in and take care of business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
if that doesn't happen, then I don't think it'll be a knee-jerk reaction. But I think you, as I've stated before, at the end of your football season, you reevaluate things and see what is working, what didn't work, where do I need to make changes. And I think everybody does that. They call it exit exam.
Right.
You look at it and you say, hey, this is where we need to be to get better. I need to maybe bring in some more players. Maybe I have to hit the junior college route. It's all interesting. That's why they get paid the big bucks. And in this conference, some of the coaches are getting paid really big bucks, and they're going to have to start producing.
Okay, and speaking of producing, our good brother has just chimed in that he's ready. But I wanted to make this point. In this case, the MEAC champion, in this case, is North Carolina A&T. They have an advantage, and this is why I say this. Just put in Southern's case, this will be week 2 of a high-stress game. You had the Bayou Classic. Now you got the SWAC Championship. And then you don't get a chance to celebrate the victory too much because then you got a well-rested, healed team to face for the Celebration Bowl. Do you see the mental fatigue that could come by playing these type of high-level impact games going down the stretch?
The cream rises to the top. It separates the men from the boys. They should be ready. They should be ready to go. The same thing happened last year. It's the same scenario this year. It's ways you could be smart with your game planning. Get a little rest, get off your feet a little bit. But this is such an important game. They should be ready. No. And I'm not saying you're saying this, but no excuses.
Right. Well, absolutely no excuses. But I'm just talking about the reality and the perception part of things. Yeah, the perception, man, we made it to the championship, but the reality is the physical wear and tear of an average football game, the impact, not only mentally and physically, but emotionally, psychologically. These guys coming in, drained. And then you got this hyped up Aggie team that said, let's go. We got one more to go. And I know the cream rises to the top, but it's just like all cream, a lot of it is just full of air.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out. You know, again, in Southern's case, this is the same road to the championship they had to take last year. If they win today, they're going to find, you know, something about young people, though.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I forgot to add that fact. Maybe I'm thinking from an old man.
Rejuvenate themselves quickly, both mentally and physically.
You're right about that, brother.
And I'm going to tell you something else now. If Southern gets through and wins this game, a fan base that is just starving, literally. See, it's one thing if you've never been there, you never have championships. But to have success and win championships, and to a certain point, they've had a little bit of taste of that, but ultimately they will always win the championships under Coach Rich and stuff. It's a fan base that literally would go to the ends of the earth to get to Atlanta. They will be creative in doing that.
Oh, I could imagine that. It would be Atlanta would have to be put on notice. I mean, it's not going to be enough room there. And from that point of view, you say that's where you would like to see Southern advance, represent the conference. You know, and because you know it would be highly anticipated. You know, Jag Nation's going to show up and show out, and then once again, I'm tugging on my heart. Maybe this is why you guys think I'm a Southernite undercover, but I really like Odoms, man. I love his demeanor on and off the field. I love everything about him, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if I ever rooted for a coach, this is one I root for right now.
Yeah, well, some would say, yeah, that's your second favorite team in the conference after your beloved Prairie View. But, you know, I wouldn't say that. I know you have a special take on Coach Odoms. I've been on the other side. I've had people at the Celebration Bowl say, oh, wow, you're so tough on Coach Odoms. I just think you're tougher on your home coach, per se, than, and you look at it in a different aspect than someone that's outside looking in, as the cliche goes. So it's all good. It's all, it's not a bad thing. Now, if you... I look at it, it's a popular position to have. You're the CEO, and when things are going well, you bask in the glory. But when things don't go well, the disappointment comes. Hey, my thing is you got to stand up and take it as well. And not saying that either coach hasn't, and then the fan aspect. Fans are they're emotional, but you got to have them.
Yes.
They're the backbone of your sports programs, no matter what sport it is. So, with that being said, I'm like many. I'm not going to be there, but hey, I'll be there in spirit. I'll be tuned in. It could be an outstanding weekend because in this city, in Studio B, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, two teams are playing for their conference championships.
Yeah, it's a big weekend in Baton Rouge, baby.
Then Sunday there's a big game. The Saints in San Francisco.
I really think the Saints are going to be all right in that one, though. But, you know, I understand the anxiety.
Well, you know, hey, I always have anxiety, no matter what sport it is. I always feel like there's always more work to be done. You can always do better. And I think that keeps it fresh. You seek perfection, but it's hard to get, but it keeps you striving to do better, to get to that ultimate goal. And speaking of ultimate goal, Southern over Grambling State 30-28. Your thoughts on the Bayou Classic? Was it entertaining for you?
Yeah, it really was. As a matter of fact, when Grambling jumped up to the 21-3 lead, or whatever it was at the point. My son said, "Pop, you think it's over with?" I said, "Nah, this is the Bayou Classic, son." And it's going to turn around. And lo and behold, it ended up being another classic. But what I wanted to do, I want to tip my cap, if you don't mind if I do this. I want to tip my cap to Grambling and Southern, because I was explaining to my son that when I was a little kid, I realized, it was the 46th anniversary, but before I was fully aware of all of the HBCU institutions throughout the conference, not the conference, but America, I knew of Grambling and Southern because of the Bayou Classic and how it has been a staple point and a vocal point for us as a community abroad. And to see the level of respect, the level of play that is presented from both sides, although it was a horrible incident down in the French Quarters, but that was beyond our control. Stuff happens. But it was a very entertaining game. And if you recall, I'm not going to say much, but I did project that it was going to boil down to special teams play, and I was right on that. You don't have to thank me, though, but, I just want to bring that up.
Block field goal.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I thought it was great gamesmanship. Odom's calling the timeouts consecutively. And it was just a well-played game, man. A lot of execution. And, people always say, well, you could have done this better, you could have done that better. Yes, of course. That's why we play the game. But you live to see another day. And you put yourself in position where you face off against the Braves in the reservation today, 3 p.m., and it should be another epic game today. But I thought it was a very balanced game, regardless of what others may think. Now, some of the officiating was questionable on both sides, but I've always been one to think and believe that if you are going to allow officiating to determine the outcome of the game, if you go and analyze the game from beginning to end, there were several opportunities to where you don't have to blame the officiating, even though it was a lot of questionable and confused calls in that game.
Well, speaking of that, I pulled up the official stats, and the penalties that were called, the ones that were missed, they're not posted. But let's see, Southern 3 penalties for 15 yards, Grambling State 4 for 21. I mean, yeah, there were some that were missed on both sides, but the way the game was presented, and you want one of your best crews for this type of game. You got 6,000 to 8,000 fans there. It's packed, and how it's presented. So from that aspect, only 7 penalties between both teams. Now, and before last week show, I kind of was talking about how it was a pick'em game because both teams seemed mirrored each other. It was balanced. Total offensive yards, 389 for Southern, 364 for Grambling. Southern, 67 plays. Grambling ran 66 plays from the line of scrimmage. Average per play, 5.8 yards for Southern, 5.5 for Grambling State. See where I'm going?
Oh, yeah.
208 yards rushing for Southern University, 209 for Grambling State. First downs. You want to take a guess at this? 21 for Southern, 20 for Grambling. And let me say this. Grambling State, I said that rivalry, it's a different type of rivalry. It's kind of like growing up, it's the cousins or the part of the family you see maybe once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get together, if you have a little competitive game or whatever you're playing, you want to beat them, but it's still family, if you get my drift.
Right.
Now, Jackson State and Alcorn, that's different, especially Jackson State.
Yeah, there's an old expression, man, I could choke the what out of somebody. Well, it's not like that with the Grambling and the Southern deal. It's not, you don't want to choke the what out of them. Maybe you just want to choke the wind out of them, to where it gets close to that point, but it's more wind than the actual matter that's coming out. So I do get exactly what you're saying.
And so congratulate Coach Favre and his staff. I know several of the coaches on the staff. It was a good game.
It was.
It went down to the end, and that's kind of how you want it to be, exciting.
Absolutely.
And the winner, the alumni and the fan base are ecstatic. It hurts for the loser. I understand that. Trust me.
Yes, sir. It
been on both sides.
But here's another thing. When I talked about that community pride, when I talk about community pride, I'm talking about every conference, every school that's connected to this conference. You're proud of a product that's presented like that as a SWAC member, which, and we don't have time to do it right now, which illustrates that we got to do a better job as conference scheduling our non-conference opponents, because just because Grambling, Southern, and Alabama State are not factors for the FCS playoffs, we do a better job of scheduling. We become factors at the table of legitimate consideration for an FCS bid. And I know people don't want it, but you want to be a champion, and I want to be a champion on whatever level. And, don't tell me about this, that, and the other, because they did it for the CIT and basketball and everything else. If there's an opportunity for our kids to play for a championship, and it's only 2% of these guys that are going to get paid for this game, you might as well try to make it as possible, as best as possible for the other 98% that this will be their last hurrah, and position yourselves to play in somebody's postseason tournament.
Well, we'll have that discussion right at another time, because I was asked about that, and my position over 20-something years have not changed. I'll just simply say this, and we'll go to timeout and get the first guest in. For those, as a conference, you can play them in the regular season. Certain teams, and when we say it's not about the money, it is. You don't even have to pay taxes. We know death is certain.
Yes, sir.
Unless you're like Methuselah, going to live over 1,000 years. I don't think that's going to happen this time of day.
Right.
But as far as Southern and Grambling State, the money that they make on the Bayou Classic, I don't foresee them going to the FCS playoffs. And I understand the thing about, you want to be the best and you want to play with the best. So for those who have that option within the conference, and you can still, as a conference, schedule these teams in the regular season and beat them, that's where you need to go in that direction as well. You can still do that. And for those who can get an at-large bid, you can do that as well. But you got to start playing them and start beating them. But
there you go.
That's going to be a discussion we're going to have along with some basketball that's coming up. But let me take a time out. Brandon B.J. Jones, I'm going to get him on early. He's coming up next. Going to get his thoughts on this 2019 SWAC football championship on the reservation. He's already there. What kind of crowd will there be? Television, excitement. Can Southern University finally take care of Alcorn State? Oh, would it be sweet if they can do it today? It would be sweet. I'll have to come up with some just outlandish type of activity, what I'm going to do if Southern comes through and have a victory. I'll have a great party, I guess, among other things. But we shall see. We'll get his perspective on it. Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day coming up next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Serving the community through faith and athletics. The Open Mic Broadcast Network.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more, and we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
As a dad, you'll probably spend years teaching your son how to hit a baseball, how to throw a tight spiral and hit a receiver, how to spring off a diving board and hit the water, how to hit a 1-wood and a 9-iron, how to hit the bullseye, how to hit the strike zone, hit a jump shot, hit the open man, hit the hockey net, and maybe the most challenging of all, how to hit the books. But the question is this: how much time will you spend teaching him what not to hit? Teach your son early and often that all violence against women is wrong. For tips on what to say, visit endabuse.org. Brought to you by the Family Violence Prevention Fund, the Waite Institute for Violence Prevention, the Ad Council, and this station.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the next 7 years of bigger and bigger enrollments, America's grade schools will need nearly 250,000 extra teachers besides those to fill normal vacancies. This great need, plus the growing public interest in education and improvements in schools, make elementary school teaching a more rewarding career than ever, a career that high school and college students should certainly consider. Education holds America's future, perhaps your future.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show. Heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's first guest, Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. Brandon, good morning to you, sir. How you doing?
Oh, man, good morning, Carlos, man. Just pulling up. Still trying to get on the campus of Alcorn State University. Beautiful, beautiful morning.
Yeah, I'm on injury reserve. I'm not going to be there, but, I'll be there in spirit. But I'm sure it's going to be an outstanding football game, and my eyeballs will be on ESPNU at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I think yours as well as pretty much everyone else who weren't able to come down, man. This is the game of the year. This is what we've waited for all year. We got the two best teams, and now it's time to sort it out.
Yeah, well, that's why I have you on to get your perspective on this ball game. But before we get to Southern and Alcorn State, that ball game last week, the Bayou Classic, the 46th annual Bayou Classic, the Jaguars were able to take care of business, and now back-to-back Western Division champs. So kind of get your thoughts on that Bayou Classic. You were right there on the sideline.
Yeah, man, it was one for the ages. We talk about Bayou Classics. We're going to be talking about this one as one of the best that we've seen in the series. It was a back and forth contest. Southern was able to prevail, and the thing that has impressed me with Southern over the course of this winning streak is that Southern has found different ways to win. They haven't done it the same way each week. But what you can say is that you're starting to see improvements in the passing game. You're starting to see Ladarius Skelton make better decisions. Even you're starting to see the defense step up and make plays when they need to, and they haven't done that all year. So I think that was something that brought Southern back. Who would have thought that this offense that sputtered at the start of the season would be able to come down from a 21-3 deficit. So, man, it was just an amazing game. And I tell you what, it took me about a day or two to come down off of that one, man, because that one was you need to check in with your cardiologist after that one, because that was one that had your heart racing and your blood going and everything going. So fortunate to get out of that one with a win, and now we're on to a bigger one today.
Yeah, because before last week's show, I talked about how, to me, both teams kind of mirrored each other offensively, inconsistent, which quarterback would play. And then you look at their stats, they were kind of similar. This whole game, they kind of mirror of each other. And Southern getting down 21-3. What did you think about that score right before halftime? I thought that just changed the momentum, and the Big Mo was on Southern's back going into the break.
Yeah, that score was huge. That last drive was huge. And even down 21-3, being on the sidelines, there was a sense of calm on the Southern sidelines. Now, I'm going to be honest. At first, it kind of bothered me. Because I was like, hey, guys, we're down 21-3. Why are we so calm? And I remember the Darius Skelton comes to the sideline and say, hey, don't worry, we got this. And he just said it so calm. He said, hey, don't worry, we got this. And it was just a sense of calm with the coach Odoms and the staff. And that last drive, we saw a Ladarius Skelton that we've been waiting to see all year. You look at some of the passes that he made on that last drive, he's starting to turn into the quarterback that we saw the tail end of last year. And he's doing it when the most important football is played in November and December, which is good news if you're a Jaguar fan.
Yeah, and to me, and see if you agree, and if you don't, that's all right. You could disagree. That's what the show is all about. To me, what I've seen all year is with Skelton, if you could kind of get him as far as his passing, give him something that gets him in a rhythm, some easy throws, and then it seems like with that rhythm, he gets better. And then I also notice a lot of times with his athleticism, running the football, that kind of gets him into this pattern where he gets off to a better start. Are you seeing that? Are you continuing to see that as well, along with what you just said, his improvement, in this part of the season?
Spot on. It's like once he gets into a rhythm, he really has it going. So yeah, I mean, we agree there. I mean, we're seeing the same thing. And, the thing about it is it looks like he's more in sync with his receivers now than what he was at the start of the season. It looks like at the start of the season that Bedford was kind of his go-to, but now you're starting to see Hunter Register, Mackey, and the rest of that receiving core really start to get their touches as Skelton becomes in sync with all of them. So I think that's a good thing as well.
Yeah, Register, you got a 6'4", 6'5" receiver. I'm still somewhat hoping that even in today's game, a Bedford or a Washington, somebody steps up their game in this ball game to give some help as far as with the receiving core, even the tight end, even the back out, because I kind of think that, hey, Register now, he will be a focal point of Alcorn State.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look at what he's done over the last couple of weeks, you definitely want to take him away. He's a big body. He's a big body, 6'4", 215 pounds. He's a big body. So what you need is the emergence of a Cameron Mackey or a Bedford or even a Ben out of the backfield to kind of take some of that pressure off of just having to force feed the football to Hunter Register. So, I think that, today could be a breakout day for a receiver like a Cameron Mackey.
Now, don't get me wrong, BJ. If Register get 8, 9 receptions, 10, 4, 175, that would be outstanding. But I just want to see if someone else will step it up and will Skelton and the offensive coaching staff kind of spread it around. But that'll be something to look for of many things in this game. BJ, run game. How important is it for Southern University to really get the running game going?
I mean, if you look at it, the running game takes the pressure off the passing game. I mean, Southern's bread and butter is running the football, whether it's the quarterback or whether it's the running back. So it's very important. If you look at the history of this rivalry, 8 out of the last 10 have gone to the team that has won the rushing battle. So if you win the battle on the ground, the odds are that you win this football game.
Well, that's the bread and butter for Southern University. And the last ball game, when they played, 75 yards for Southern University. So I look for Southern to do much better than that, because I look at it. Bentley for Alabama A&M, and Southern ended up being what? The number one rushing team in the conference. But Alabama goes in. And I know it's just a regular season game, but it was an important game. Bentley goes in and tops Alcorn's defense for 245 yards rushing. If Southern's able to duplicate that number, you got to like Southern's chances.
Oh, yeah. If Southern's able to put up those type of numbers, I think that we're going to have a very, very jubilant Saturday night that will stretch from here at Alcorn State all the way down Highway 61 to Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Very interesting. Visiting with Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. Must get pressure on Harper. And throughout this year, we've seen Southern University, I've seen it, with a 3-man front. They'll send a 4th guy sometimes. But how important is it to get pressure on Harper and then give Harper different looks in the pass coverage? What did Grambling State do? That made Go ahead.
Yeah, if you look at what Grambling did, Grambling came after him. They blitzed. You saw a lot of that A-gap blitz. They gave him some eye candy on the outside. But one thing that they did, if they did not get there, they put licks on him. Felix Harper is not a big kid. I know he's listed at 6 feet, 180 pounds. I've stood beside him. I'm 6 feet. He's about 3 inches shorter than me. He's maybe 170. If you can get to him and do what Pete Richardson called put some handprints on him, that's what Grambling did. Even when they weren't able to get home, they were able to let them know that they're there. And what you saw, if you look at that football game, if you saw Felix Harper that was rattled for the first time. So if you do that in a big game, and you got Jordan Lewis and the rest of that crew, and this is the first time Jordan Lewis has been healthy against Alcorn State since his first outing against them, homecoming of last year. If you remember, this year he had the hand wrapped up, so he was only working with one hand. And then last year in the select title game, he went out early with a knee injury. So Jordan Lewis, this is his hurrah. So if that defensive line can get after Felix Harper, even in the near misses, put a lick on him. All right, if it's close, put a lick on him. If you start to do that, get him rattled, then that's when he starts to get happy feet. He starts looking all over the place, and that's when he'll start keying in on one receiver and try to get there, which will open him up for turnovers.
Because the last game that they played October 26th, you saw it on consecutive plays. Alcorn just went after, deep pass, just went after the secondary. And it's just my thinking, if that's not one of your strong points, the back end of defense, how can Southern University help themselves and help the secondary out? My thing is, you just got, if I get beat being aggressive, that's one thing. And I know they did run some man-to-man, but how can I help out the secondary? And that's the thing I thought about, getting more pressure and doing something. I know you can't just go and totally revamp your defense. I'm not saying that. for this game. But it's some things you can do. You're a former defensive guy that you can do to help out the secondary and make Harper uncomfortable, BJ.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's always said that pressure up front will make a mediocre secondary look amazing. If you get pressure up front and get the quarterback, off schedule, then that secondary, it may be mediocre to poor. All of a sudden, they look a lot better. Throws are not on point as they would be. Reads are not made. Quarterbacks start telegraphing throws. They start focusing in on one receiver and one particular route. You start seeing those passes across the middle not be there, and all the passes start going to the outside. You can do so much with pressure. You can get a guy rolling out, trying to throw against his body, which is a perfect combination for turnovers. A strong front seven and a great pass rush is the deodorant that covers up stink in the secondary. That has always been that way.
Yeah, I got to use that one. Covers up deodorant. Making notes of that. And we look at the cornerback situation. O.J. Tucker, boy, he had a tough going on October 26th. Starting cornerbacks, Tamari Smith was transferred from the University of Memphis. He's a starting cornerback. And now Detrail Brumfield, a redshirt senior, starting at cornerback for today's game as I look at the starting lineup. So, and Martavius Gain at safety, your Rovers, Benjamin Harris. But it'll be several guys that will play defense, offense, special teams. Those are the breakdowns of a football game. The Jaguars, to me, they have to match Alcorn or better them in all three aspects.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is, once you look at it, and Coach Odom's talked about this, in the losses versus Alcorn, it's been different things that have plagued Southern. Usually, if you look at it consistently over the last 10 years, it's been the rush defense. This year, it was the pass defense. Last year in the championship, it was the rush defense. Offense showed up. So this is the game where you have to have all three units come together and play their best game. You need that today.
And to your point, and after the October 26th game, his name is Derek. He's a Alcornite. He said something to me that, you know how someone tells you something and you just go like, I didn't think about that. He says, and you just triggered it when you said in the past games, the 400 yards rushing, getting gashed in the run defense. He said to him, Southern was a team that looks like it was built to stop Alcorn's run game, but then you had the injury with Noah and now Harper, who's a totally different type quarterback. You get my drift? And he also told me that it had been such a 7-8 years, a long time that he's seen a defense like Southern come in and just stop Alcorn's run game that Saturday. But then they did most of the damage via the air. So that means adjustment has to be made. But I tell me if I'm wrong, BJ. I still know you got to stop Alcorn through the air, but don't forget about the run defense. Grambling 209 yards last week, and then the week before that against Jackson State, they were gashed. But other than that, a team, Southern's run defense had been pretty good.
Yeah, you look at Southern University's second against the run in the conference, only second to Alcorn, and they were first most of the year until that Jackson State and Grambling game. You got to get back to the basics. If you look at where they were gashed, you got linebackers taking bad angles, poor tackling, things of that nature that you didn't see at the beginning of the year. So you want to shore that up, because one thing about Alcorn State, they can still run the football. Nico Duffy can still run the football. Trey Turner can run the football. I think Deshaun Waller would be back today. They can run the football. So it starts with, if you can make them one-dimensional and have to pass, playing the defensive back position is easy when you know the pass is coming. So if you can make them one-dimensional when you know the pass is coming, that makes your job that much easier as a defensive back.
And let us not forget, third downs, get off the field.
Yes.
On defense. Boy, how many drives are extended when you don't, even on the second down, you drop a potential interception. And then it's 3rd and 8. And we say long, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, down the distance. Southern defense they have to get off the field, in my humble opinion. BJ, if Southern wins this ball game today, I won't ask for a prediction like last time. What must they do if they're to be victorious today?
If Southern is to win these football games, they're going to have to do these three things. Protect the football offensively. Do not turn the ball over. Make Alcorn State beat you. Do not beat yourself. If they are to score, make them drive the length of the field. Do not give up any big plays. Also, keep Felix Harper off schedule. Do not let him set his feet, be able to throw the ball. He needs to have company in the backfield every time he drops back. All right? And force turnovers. If you can win the turnover battle, your chances go up exponentially to win the football game. Southern does those things. Southern take it to Atlanta in 2 weeks. If they don't, you might get more of what you've got in the last 10 meetings between these two, which is Alcorn leading it 9-1.
Yeah. And if that were, let me just ask you this, because it kind of came up in hour number one. As an alum, Southern University, if Southern's not successful today, then you 10-1. Some will say 11-1. Whatever it is, it's it's in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Do you panic as a football program and do something, knee jerk, which I don't think it will happen, but do you go back to the drawing board and kind of reevaluate what you're doing, or do you even look at making changes on the staff, or do you say, no, we were close again, the next time we'll get it done? Where you fall at on that?
I tell people this. This is December the 7th. The only people that are playing football at this point are people who are playing for something. You are either in the hunt for something or you are playing for something, whether that's playoffs or championship week. If you're playing right now, you're where you need to be. All right? So if something happens, you may make some minor changes on the staff. As far as a complete overhaul, I don't think so. Southern has lost a total of 2 regular season conference games in the last 2 seasons. There are a lot of people in this conference that would sign up for that every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
So, in other words, I ought to put another incentive in there. You're that close? You beat Alcorn State? How about an extra $25,000 and a 30? No, I'm just joking on that. Now, I said in the first hour, I don't think it would be a knee-jerk reaction. You have some disappointed fan base, of course. It'll be, damn it, Alcorn again. But eventually, it'll happen. Why not today?
Yeah.
Put yourself in the best position as a staff, put your players in the best position, and then you go at it. And at the end of the day, if you've done the best that you can, you played hard, and you did get it done, you can live with that, and I can live with that.
Right.
So
as long as you come, as long as you come in and give your best effort, and it's a tightly contested ball game, I think, it may hurt, it will hurt, it will sting, but I think people can accept that. What people can accept if you just get ran out of the building.
Yeah. Oh, I'm pulling hair down. That's right. I don't have hair, but you get my drift. BJ, thanks for the time. Safe travels back to the city you're at now in 2 weeks, and I'll be there. I'll be off injured reserve. By the way, Howard football coach Ron Prince resigns amid abuse intimidation allegations, and FAMU claims the 2019 Black College HBCU Championship. When I saw that, I thought about the Wizard of Oz. You know, the land of make-believe. Click your heels 3 times to 4. And yes, you are the 2019 Black College HBCU champions. No. I don't believe that. But that is another discussion at another time. That is very interesting. We'll see FAMU in early in 2020. How about that?
Yep. And just think about this, Carlos. What happens if Southern pulls the win today and then pulls the win in 2 weeks and they win the Celebration Bowl and you have FAMU with this mystical or what they made up championship? Just think how intense that game is going to be on September the 12th next year in Mumford Stadium.
Yeah, Pete Richardson Classic. Wow. Well, I know Coach Simmons. How much of a part he had in this, or was it just a PR relationship department type of thing? But boy, I think I'll go watch the Wizard of Oz. Click your heels, follow the yellow brick road, la 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 la. Unbelievable. I'm gonna start chanting, hun, hun. BJ, have a great weekend. Go Jags.
All right, Carlos.
All right. Oh, unbelievable. And for some of you say, well, no, you're picking. Now, I remember when Southern was ineligible NCAA basketball and they were allowed to participate in the tournament. I was against that. And I stated it. Same thing applies. In your mind, you're the champions. Oh, yeah, you beat Southern. I understand that. But unbelievable. Somewhere over the rainbow. After this time out, we'll visit with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
The birth of legends are storied in this conference. We must never forget our rich history. We now turn our gaze to the future. The new legends will emerge. New heroes to arise. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. Be our history.
Each team starts their journey on separate roads, but they all converge to one road to the championship. There will be revenge and redemption. There'll be an Aggie and Eagle standoff. There'll be Bulldogs and Bears colliding with Tigers and Spartans. Hornets fighting off Bison and Wildcats rattling the Rattlers. The road has twists and turns. And when it ends, one thing is certain. Only one team will claim the title. MEAC champion.
How you doing? This is Mike Prince, the radio guy. I want to thank you so much for joining us on our daily content and programming, and serve as a reminder that you can listen to the Carlos Brown Show live here on the network 10 a.m. to 12 noon Central Standard Time each and every Saturday. Carlos Brown is a seasoned, legendary sports talk show host based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but we're not going to hold that against him. Join the Carlos Brown Show live on the Open Mic Broadcast Network 10 a.m. to 12 noon.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Yeah, I've heard that chant song many times, and it's one of those musical notes that it'll stay with you for a few days if you're not careful. And I've had my share of it. With that being said, we're joined now by Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Charles, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Are you excited? What is the crowd looking like? What is the atmosphere so far?
Well, they're trickling in. I arrived here at 5:30 this morning because I'm just not a big traffic person. Just gonna be honest with you, I don't like it. It's a way of life. So I was here early, and there was no line, but they're slowly coming in. I mean, we still have 4 hours until kickoff, and I do expect a late arriving and fashionably late crowd here. It's overcast. It's 58 degrees. It'll get down to the low 50s. A little wind. The wind will be a factor. So late arriving, but a lot of folks are here tailgating. A lot of folks started setting up here, Carlos, about noonish. We had graduation here yesterday, and then once the graduation crowd left, then that's when you can start setting up your tailgate. So quite a few people started doing that yesterday about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's been a slow go so far, but I think it'll pick up as we get closer to kickoff.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be at capacity if it's anywhere like last year. So temporary seating in the end zone is in place?
No, we didn't do that this year. That was being discussed, and the option, it has been asked, it was requested, but the university decided not to do that this go round. So I'm sure the hill will be utilized in some shape, form, or fashion, even though it's kind of damp because we did have some rain yesterday morning. But I think that's not going to bother folks. If this place is packed, if you can't find a seat, gotta sit somewhere. So I'm sure the hill will be utilized.
Well, shortly after 3 p.m. on ESPNU, Southern University and Alcorn State. It's kind of like a rewind. If you look last year, the championship 37 to 29, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Alcorn State over. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I mean, it was a high-scoring game last year. It was back and forth, and one of the plays that a lot of people not talking about a year later, the kid by the name of Felix Harper came in on a 3rd down and 4 after Noah Johnson had to come out of play because his helmet came off, and he picked up a 1st down on a little square out. He ran forward, got it, drive continued, they scored, and that was a huge momentum shift in the game. It's a play that no one's really talking about, but in my opinion, maybe the biggest play of that particular game.
Yeah, you kind of forgot about that. Excuse me. Kind of forgot about that particular play. But I've kind of pulled up the stats just to kind of give me a sense of the ball game today. And it, punt average from that, the scoring by quarters. But if you look at it, Southern University rushing 226 a game, they're giving up 125. Alcorn 161 a game, giving up 127. That leads me to this. You look at this Alcorn State team, even the game that I had a chance to witness on October 26th. Offensively, this is a different team that you're accustomed to seeing with Alcorn. What Harper brings is now Alcorn will put it in the air. They'll still run it, but it's totally different than the team from last year's championship game, offensively for Alcorn.
Yeah, and it is different because of the fact that you're looking at two different quarterbacks with two different dynamics. This time last year, we're talking about Noah Johnson, who obviously can run the football and not necessarily hanging in the pocket nearly as long. I mean, when things aren't there, he's prone to take off with it. He's got the longest run from scrimmage in school history at 91 yards. But Felix Harper is a guy that hangs in the pocket. He's going to find his reads and check downs, and he's going to hit his receivers. And I think that's the difference if you look at Noah Johnson versus Felix Harper. Now, in the A&M game a few weeks ago, we needed a drive. We needed to take time off the clock, and Felix Harper was able to do some stuff with his feet, move the chains a little bit, and take time off the clock. So Felix can do that, but he's been more the pocket passer. He's been more the guy that's going to hit Chris Blair, Juan Anthony, or Charles Pringle. When the blitz doesn't get home and you got that one-on-one, and Southern, tried to do that in the game here October 26th, they couldn't get home, and the Jaguars back end was called for a number of holds and pass interference penalties. That was huge in that game. So I think, you have two quarterbacks, similar in some ways, but different than others, And I think if Felix Harper gets those reads, and if Southern can't get to them, Felix Harper's going to pick them apart. Kind of similar to what they did October 26th.
And if you look at it, that ball game, most of the damage done in the second half. Southern drove the ball down the field on their first opportunity, first possession, and they came away with an interception, halfback pass. We don't want to talk about that anymore. That's still, I just don't understand that one. But hey, that's why they get paid the big bucks. And then Alcorn State goes down the field, and then a fumble at the goal line, at Southern's goal line.
Yep.
And so anyway, the game is 6-3 at the half. And then in between those points, Skelton is pulled out of the game and put back in. He leads them down on the first drive, albeit no score. He gives them a score on the drive, and then he gets the last touchdown on the drive. So even still, that was a game that I think most Southern fans thought that things go a little bit differently. They have a chance to be there at the end, and that in that ball game. So with that being said, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just sorry, Carlos. I absolutely agree. I mean, 2 turnovers led to 2 touchdowns. I mean, the halfback pass didn't work, and then there was another turnover in there, and the Braves took advantage of both of those opportunities. So you look at that, 2 turnovers led to 14 points, and there was your end result. I think the other aspect of the game was the fact that the Braves receivers had their way with Southern secondary. I think that was huge. And then the whole Skelton-McDaniel, what you call it, a quarterback controversy at the time, and I think it was. I mean, clearly for me, I thought, and I've said this all year, Skelton should have been Southern's quarterback the whole year. Dawson Odoms, I don't know if he just got antsy, panicked, whatever the case. Early in the season, he felt like Skelton was having some miscues and mistakes that he probably shouldn't have had, and that's why he was pulled. But I think the Alcorn game, to me anyway, Carlos, probably was the game in which, even though they lost the game, I think told me, and probably should have told Dawson Odoms, that Skelton's our guy. And I think from that point on, Southern has been able to get some things done with Skelton. And he said it this week in the teleconference, too, in the championship teleconference. He's kind of really been more honed in the film room, some other little distractions that he's gotten rid of, and really is honed in on his craft. And you kind of see that. And I was really impressed with what I saw in the Bayou Classic. He looked very poised. When it wasn't there, the check downs, he was able to run the football, and Grambling had trouble with that. So, I think there's a more mature Skelton now than what we saw back on October 26th.
And as my last guest, Brandon B.J. Jones said, what he liked about Skelton at this point in time, he's gotten better. This is the time that you need to be playing with your A game. So we will see in today's ball game if he will he continue to be successful. I'm sure Alcorn will have him as enemy number 1, 2, 3. They're gonna know where he's at, and it'll be interesting to see if how much of the option and how successful will Skelton be at running the triple option. Will he make great decisions, when to keep it, when to pitch it? So I guess from a defense standpoint, it does give you some options that you have to worry about. But would I be in error if I say that Alcorn State will do the same thing that most teams have done this season? Skelton, can you beat us with your arm? And if you can, we'll live with that. You agree or disagree with that?
I think they're really worried about what Skelton's going to do with his feet, because when you can run the football and in their quarterback, there's a spy on that quarterback, and if you can run the football, that opens up the whole defense. I don't think they're worried about his arm as much as they're worried about his feet. If he can get 3-4 yards a pop, then you're without 2 of your backs against the Bayou Classic who'll be ready to go, and Cheney and others. That's going to make it even scarier in terms of what options you could have available to you in terms of stretching the field. You crowd the box, You throw it over the top, you get Hunter Register, who just looks like a man at that receiver category. Like Fred McNair said, he looks pretty. And that's not a bad thing. When he says that, that means this guy's a heck of a football player, talking about Hunter Register. And so I think clearly the Braves going to have to keep him in the box. That Braves defensive line is going to have to whip Southern's offensive line to collapse that pocket. If that happens, I think the Braves have a good chance to win this game.
What does Coach McNair, I heard a little bit of his radio show, and to me, he's going to be like a coach. He's like a coach that's always going to say the conservative thing. He's not going to give the opposing team any bulletin board material. How does he really feel when y'all have time together? How does he really feel about playing Southern University again? Because I know Blair said it seems like it's crazy. We always playing Southern University. How does Coach McNair feel about this championship game today?
Well, I think he takes every game the same way. I mean, it doesn't matter whether we play McNeese or whether we play USM. I mean, he's worried about every team that we play. I mean, even Mississippi College, he was concerned about that triple option attack. So every team he's worried about. But I think he does realize that at some point we have to play a complete football game. And we haven't done that yet. He has said that. He said it the other day that we have not played a complete football game to this point. And if we don't do that today with the way Southern's playing right now, you know, it could go the other way. So I think what he's saying about Southern is, look, their defense is kind of like Alabama A&M's in a sense. They're going to give you some stuff, but then they're going to take some stuff away, and you got to capitalize. And he realizes that Southern special teams has been pretty good, especially punt kickoff return. They had a field goal block against Grambling last week to seal the game. You know, he's very much concerned that this Jaguar team's on a pretty good roll right now. And for his team, and, you know, coaches say it's not about the other team, it's about us. For Alcorn, he wants this team to start fast and continue to go fast. And that's something that we really haven't seen that much this year. We start fast, but then we get into a neutral mode or then go the other way. And then teams kind of get back in the game. And, you know, when we had games with starts and stops like Grambling, which we couldn't get much done. But I think that was more Grambling defensively more so than us. So I think for this Southern team, he respects what Dawson Odom has done. And he respects the fact that this program, once upon a time, years ago, was not in the conversation. It was kind of Grambling, but he respects what this Southern team has done and respects the fact that his team has won 9 out of 10. And he's done it all the same way with 4 or 5 different running backs. The Braves have been able to gash Southern running the football. And, you know, we're going to get Deshaun Waller back today. He's going to get some carries. So we're going to be fully stocked in the backfield, and I think that's where it's going to start. But he knows that Southern's defense is stout.
Now, you know, it's championship week and championship day when McNair has said they haven't played a complete game. Coach Odom's remarks here to the Baton Rouge media, the same thing. They haven't played. Southern hadn't played a complete game, all 3 phases. So you know the sportsmanship is on now. I mean, not saying that they're not telling the truth, but you know, you respect the opponent, but you try to beat them. And you know somebody's going to be happy at the end of the day, and somebody's going to be disappointed. And you mentioned the, you know, 9-1 against Southern in the last 10 games.
Yep.
And the way that they've done it most of the time, running the football pretty much at you know, having very much success against them. October 26th, though, that was probably the least rushing yards that Alcorn's had Southern in the last few games, but they made it up, you know, through the air. So these games are always changing. And, Charles, I look for another outstanding game between the two teams, and it could come down to special teams, turnovers, and all that. But I think I made a note. I think Southern has to start fast, but they have to finish off drives. You know, 3 points, a lot of times that's points on the board in the red zone. But I think in today's game, if you can get touchdowns over field goals, I think it puts you on the right path.
It definitely does. I mean, I think Southern knows that they probably can't win this game with field goals. You know, at some point you got to get in the end zone because this Braves offense has not really been stopped. I mean, the 27 points against Southern, and then we only had 16 against Grambling. So those are the two lower scoring games that we've had this season. You know, for me, what scares me about Southern and just studying them the last couple of weeks, that Bayou Classic game was an eye opener. You know, it was 21-3 Grambling with 8.5 minutes left, and I was sitting on the couch flipping back and forth between Auburn and Alabama, which seemed like it was. Yeah, well, hey, I'm being honest, because that was a classic of a game itself. I mean, you couldn't turn away from it. I mean, you every time you turned to another channel, you turned it back, it was a touchdown, or a kickoff return, whatever. So, I was flipping back and forth, and when I saw that Grambling jumped out on top, okay, but then I went away from it, came back, and it was 21-3 with 8.5 left in the second quarter. I said, well, the game is over. Grambling's defense is going to be able to lock in. Then I turned away from the game. I did something else, went to the kitchen, and I came back, and I said, well, let me check on the Southern game. It was halftime, and the human jukebox was blowing, and I'm like, what's the score? And then when I saw it was 21-17, I said, uh-oh, Grambling might be in trouble, because then it's going to turn into a high-scoring game, which I felt like was going to favor Southern because they can score points, and Grambling's offense has struggled to do that against good teams in the conference. And lo and behold, it turned out to be that way. I say that to say this. Southern University has been through a lot over the years. They've been through a lot this season. They've been knocked around. They've given up a lot. They scored a lot. And yes, here they are. And that's why I think, against your number one rival, the Bayou Classic, you're down 21-3 against that defense, and you're able to get something done in the last 8.5 minutes. That's where the game was won and lost in the second quarter, I thought. So this Southern team is not going away, and I think they've been through a lot, and I think in a championship environment, it's about defense, really. I don't think it could be a high-scoring game, and I thought it would be a low-scoring game with the Classic, and this might be a low-scoring game because of the conditions. It's damp. It's going to be windy. It's going to be chilly. Could be about defense, and if it's a low-scoring game, then it's really going to be a chess match. But, for me, Southern University has passed all the check marks for me, especially last week, because I thought it was over when it was 21-3. But they rose up, and they got a block at the end. So I think that and this Braves team's been through the same thing. I mean, you look at the Alabama A&M game, you look at the Grambling game, you look at the Prairie View game. Even Valley and Savannah State were close games, halftime, midway through third quarter. Even though we pulled away, they were close, for most of the game. So both teams have kind of been through the same kind of stuff. They've been knocked around, thrown around, and not saying counted out, but they found a way to make plays. And I think that's the kind of game that we're going to have. A good chess match. Turnovers are going to be the story. Braves can't afford turnovers. We did that against Jackson. We've had trouble with that the last few weeks. Southern's got to protect the football, too, here playing on the road.
So the weather report, once again, for today's game, highs in the upper 50s, lower 60s?
Yeah, I don't think it'll get to 60 degrees with the cloud cover. It's just going to be a raw day. There may be a sprinkle. The forecast doesn't call for any rain, but there might be a sprinkle or two around. No rain right now. I don't think we'll have rain for this game, but just the clouds and just the dampness of it, you may have a sprinkle. But I think the wind and just the cool conditions will be a factor more than anything.
And the turf, the grass, the field in pretty good condition?
Oh, it's in excellent condition. I mean, we have a lot of people have commented, a lot of field folks who know field and turf, that we've got one of the best fields around. And, and I think that won't be a factor if the guys cleat up properly. I don't think it'll be a factor in this game.
20,000 plus, you think, sellout, close to it?
I think close to it, and I was talking with our ticket manager just the other day about how close we were to selling out. She said she couldn't pull up the numbers right then and there, but I expect within the next hour or so. The ticket office is open. I think as folks continue to file in closer to kickoff, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, that's when you'll see, a lot of folks coming into the stadium. And I think when it's all said and done, I think you're going to have a great crowd and a great atmosphere for this. I mean, the Jaguar Nation's been wanting Alcorn. Alcorn's been in their way. And, they're looking to get over that hump. That's probably one of the few check marks that Dawson Owens has not been able to check off. So I think this game, this is going to be a good one here. I mean, the Jaguar Nation, just like you hate Cherokee and that Braves chant, that defense, Jags defense, that gets under my skin. And I know you're going to, I mean, it does. They say it so dry, but so passionately. It gets under my skin a little bit as well. So I think you're going to see a lot. You're going to hear a lot of both of those here today.
Yeah, well, yeah, I understand that. I happen to like that saying, but you don't hear it enough a lot of times. In the 90s and under Coach Richardson, that you would hear that often in a lot. Defense, Jags defense, a lot of defense. And defense wins championships. Springs Custom Stadium, according to the information, seats 22,500. Opened in 1992. Natural grass. The distance from Baton Rouge to Lorman is 2 hours and 9 minutes. They say 112 miles. I thought it was a little longer than that, but usually when I make the trip, it's 2 hours on the dot. But from Southern, which is in North Baton Rouge, the extreme northern part, I guess it is a little closer from where I actually live, but no one cares about where I live. They just want to give you the information on the distance and the natural grass. So the weather should be a little cool, but no rain forecast, pretty much. So in a few hours, and I guess the stadium should open about, 1 o'clock, 12:30, something like that, Charles.
Yep, I think they're going to open it up at noon. I don't see any fans in the stadium as of right now. I think at 12 o'clock they'll open up the gates, and people will be coming into the stadium. And hey, this is the second year this concept of playing on campus. I know our buddy Ken Rashad did an interview with the commissioner about will that continue? Will it be at a neutral site? And the commissioner's been very clear about it that hey, if the city rises up and pump some money into the SWAC to have the game wherever, that's where the SWAC's going to go. And I think until that time, it's going to be on the SWAC campus, and the team with the number one overall seed will host it. I mean, in the first 2 years, it's just happened to be Alcorn. So, I mean, we'll see if this concept continues. I think it'll be great, to have it. We've proven we can do it. I'm sure if, Southern wins it and whoever they host, Mumford will be just as crazy and as wild and as energetic as Spinks Castle will be. So I think, it's pretty, and look, I think for all the excitement of the SWAC, I think it's twofold. Number one, you got to win your division. And then secondly, and I think it's going to be the case, if not every year, every other year, that last regular season conference game for the team that wins the division, they'll have to do some more work to host the game. I mean, I think you can clearly see that, we had to beat Jackson State in order to host. If we didn't, we'd be in Baton Rouge right now instead of here. So I think it's a two-pronged approach, especially with the on-campus championship concept that we've got going on right now. And I think it adds a little bit more excitement to the league. Down the stretch, these games do matter in more ways than one now.
Yeah. The old saying, if you're going to lose, it would be better to, if you can put it that way, lose early in the season, not late. Some of the breakdown of this championship game. This is the 21st SWAC championship game. Did you know Southern is making their 7th appearance, which is the second most in the SWAC? The SU record is 3-3. Alcorn is making their record-setting 6th straight trip to the title game and hosting the 2nd straight game. Alcorn record in the game is 3-2. And this is Coach Odom's 4th Western Division title. So, Charles, after it's all said and done, if Southern doesn't, if they're not successful, is it better to get to the championship and not win than to not get there at all?
I think in Southern's case, I think because they've done this 2 years in a row, it's not like they haven't been here before. They have the last couple of years. The fact that they have been able to beat Alcorn 9 out of 10. I think in Southern's case, it's about winning this game. I mean, it's good to be here. Congratulations. You get the hat, the T-shirt, and all that goes with it. But at some point, you got to get over that hurdle. And I think for Southern and for the Jaguar Nation, I think it's about getting by Alcorn. They checked all the other boxes. They've beaten Grambling 2 years in a row in the Classic. But, Alcorn's in their way, and they've been in their way. And I think, getting here is fine, but I think the Jaguar Nation wants to win today or yesterday or last year. I mean, it's one of those things that, why is it that Southern has had so much trouble with Alcorn? And that's what I'm sure Southern fans are talking about. You talked about it. You were here. We rushed for 400 yards, and that still sticks in your gut even to this moment.
I almost put a tattoo on my arm. 400 yards rushing. I know what that means. But I think, who has prevailed?
Yeah. So look. I mean, Southern's done everything that they're supposed to do, but beat Alcorn. And so I think this year and maybe next year, because the Braves are losing 26 seniors, so we got some work to do when this season's over with. For Southern, it's about getting to Atlanta. That's it. I mean, I think for us, it's about getting to Atlanta and winning in Atlanta. We've been in Atlanta twice and haven't gotten it done. But for Southern, it's about getting by the Braves, and that's been a struggle the last decade.
Visiting with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. He's live from Longman, Mississippi, the site of the 2019 SWAC Football Championship game coming up at 3 p.m. on ESPN. Well, let's switch gears. It's still talking football, but this is always an interesting time when they release the 2019 All-SWAC football honors, but they do that every year. And as always, there are some people that are ticked off about it. There are some people that say they can't be objective. It's the coaches and the sports information directors. Why can't the media be involved in that and get some votes? Well, it's always interesting. Newcomer of the year, Donnie Corley for Texas Southern. Freshman of the year, Abdul Fatih Ibrahim. Boy, don't hold me to that. But Alabama A&M. Offensive player of the year, Felix Harper, Alcorn State. Defensive player of the year, Deontay Hampton, Jackson State. These are individual awards. And also, I guess, Coach, I'm looking for Coach Fred McNair. Is he the coach of the year, or that'll happen after the... No,
he's the coach of the year.
Coach of the year, Fred McNair. Oh, boy. Let me take these glasses off. I see better. Coach of the year, Fred McNair. Felix Harper, quarterback, running back, Jordan Bentley, Alabama A&M. Tyler Porter from UAPB. Jeremy Abbey, offensive lineman from Southern. Mark Evans III, sophomore at UAPB. Danny Garza, Prairie View A&M. And, oh boy, these names. Tondre Smith, Jr., UAPB. Michael Ajamobi, Alcorn State. Did I say that right? Help me out.
Yep, Ajamobi.
Ajamobi. Well, that was close, huh? Abdul Fatah Ibrahim, freshman Alabama A&M. Donnie Corley, Texas Southern Junior, wide receiver, tight end, Jordan Jones, redshirt senior, Prairie View A&M. That's on the first team offense. I'll give the defense in a few minutes, but what have you heard about the discussion? I know on social media they've been going at it hot and heavy about people left off. The biggest thing, and here we go, let's just put it out there, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I had one guy to almost threaten me He said, you know damn well that Akil was the better quarterback. Should have got first team. I think he happened to listen to the show when I said if I had a vote, it would have been Harper. Dr. Prince made a great case where he thought it was a Glass. But that's the way it goes. There's a lot of conversation. What are your thoughts about all of this?
Well, I said this a few weeks ago when we played Alabama A&M. I mean, clearly the two best offensive players in the conference are Felix Harper and Akil Glass. And those two quarterbacks met on this field. And I said then, and it turned out to be probably true, the winner of that game was going to be the offensive player of the year. And it turned out to be Alcorn, and they won the division, and it turned out to be that Felix Harper won the Offensive Player of the Year case. Now, I know some people are probably saying that, and if you follow Felix Harper's story, he did not get on the field until game number 3. He didn't play against USM or Mississippi College. He didn't have any meaningful snaps. So he came in the McNeese game when Noah Johnson got hurt. So for him to get that award in maybe 2 less games than Glass, who played all year long, I think the voters probably looked at that and looked at the fact that he led his team to a division more so than, even though Glass threw for 1 million yards and 1 million touchdowns. I think it came down to that one game, and I think whoever won that A&M Alcorn game was going to be the offensive player of the year. So that, you know, for me, and I'm not a voter, and I could just share this, I do think that the whole process needs to be looked at and reviewed, because the SIDs have a vote and the coaches have a vote. The coaches ultimately determine who's on that ballot, whether it's broadcasters, whether it's radio people. And I know in baseball, and I've made the case to the baseball coaches about, maybe being on the ballot, because I see most of these conference games. The coaches don't want us on there. So it's an interesting conversation that needs to be had. I do think, it needs to be talked about and discussed, but I also think that the coaches ultimately are going to make the decision. The SIDs, I can say this, and not without naming schools. There are some schools in this conference that don't have full-time SIDs right now, but yet there's a vote out there for them. So how can you make an objective ballot when you have an interim SID who probably hasn't seen all the games? I think that's an interesting point to be made. But nonetheless, the process is where it is now. And do I see it changing anytime soon? I think there'll be harsh discussions, and it could change in the short term. But I think it has to be some serious conversations. Because someone like me, for example, I've seen every play of every Alcorn game. Now, granted, we don't play all the teams in the league, but at the same time, I've seen all of Alcorn's games, and I keep up with what's going on throughout the conference. And there are a handful of us that do that, and we feel like we can be objective because we can't vote for our own players. That's the other thing that throws a wrinkle into this too. So it's an interesting conversation, and I think the coaches are going to have to be the ones that's going to make the final call on whether or not to open it up to media members, people that cover Southern, like the guy the Advocate does, Clan Ledger, and others that see every one of these games. I think they need to be on the ballot. To have an objective ballot, to be fair to the process, I think you have to get people on there. In addition to SIDs, you get people that see all these games, and I think you can get a good sampling of where things are from that point. And I've preached that for years to no avail, however.
Well, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. I just noticed over the years there's always been a lot of conversation, and a couple of times early on I would get upset, but I've learned to kind of chill out about it, because at the end of the day, I'm hoping the team that I follow or I like to see win championships. But that's just me, and I understand it's good for conversation, and players want to be recognized. I'm like you. Why not have some more voting people? A few, but don't hold your breath. First team defense looks like this. Defensive lineman Jason Dumas, sophomore, Prairie View A&M. Vacherie, Louisiana. Well, I passed through there not too long ago. Defensive lineman Jalen Stewart, a senior from UAPB. Defensive lineman C.J. Anderson, a senior from Jackson State. Marcus Kashine, sophomore, Alabama A&M. Solomon Muhammad, a senior, Alcorn State. Keontae Hampton, sophomore, Jackson State. Tracy Tompkins, senior, Mississippi Valley State. Okay. Quinterio, am I close on that, Charles? Alcorn State?
Quinterio Cole.
Quinterio Cole, junior, Alcorn State, Memphis, Tennessee. Joe McWilliams, redshirt senior, Grambling State, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Drake Cheatham, sophomore, Prairie View A&M. And defensive back Jalen Harris, redshirt junior, Prairie View A&M. So Prairie View is represented pretty well. But I'm sure Dr. Prince would say, I'm looking for championships as well. But pretty much represented very well on the first team offense and first team defense. Also, the All-SWAC football first team specialist, Spencer Corey, junior, Alabama A&M. Anthony Craven, a senior, Alabama State. And Tyron Raff, return specialist, redshirt junior, UAPB. Kicker, once again, Spencer Corey. And the punter, Anthony Craven. Southern University had good representation on the second team. But Glass, Dewan Tucker, Prairie View A&M, Devon Ben, all second team. So at the end of the day, championships to get recognized, you want your fair shake being recognized on the all SWAC football team, whether it's first or second team. Jordan Lewis, who had some injuries, second team for Southern University. Charles, I think he's going to be an important person to look at because as a freshman last year in the championship game, you remember he got injured. That was an impact. Yeah. A sack specialist, getting pressure. And let me say this about the Bayou Classic. He was so effective. He forced a lot of things that had other players able to make plays because he started a lot of it. He's a kid who has a special motor, and I think he's going to really want to play well today as well.
I agree with you on that, and defensively, I think that's where Southern's going to, Southern to win this game, they're going to have to keep Felix Harper in the pocket and make him have happy feet a little bit. I mean, I think they can't afford to let Felix Harper sit there and be a statue, pat the football like Tom Brady and just survey the field and find whatever target he wants. I think that's going to be one of the keys. The trenches, I think, in this game are going to really determine, just like every game, but I think this game especially because, Southern got after Hick Bottom a little bit. And, of course, the Braves up front really has done a nice job. Even though not as many sacks this year as they had last year, I think over a 4-quarter time frame, like against A&M, they wore down A&M's offensive line and got to Glass a little bit. And I thought that was the difference in the game. I know you love the trenches, Carlos, and I think they will be on prominent display today.
Who wins the trenches will win the game. Down a listener says, good luck today, Southern University. I'm still sick about the Classic. I'm a G-man. I understand. If you win that game, you're happy. You're going out. You're having dinner and all that good stuff. If your team doesn't win, Charles, you don't want to talk to anybody. If you're married, you may not want to say anything to your other half. I don't know how wise that is. You know what I'm saying? Well, yeah, I understand, Dr. Prince. But look, I tell you what, that you get the position. You're really miserable. You really love your team and you support them. And I've been on both sides, man. I'm gonna tell you, last year, me and my best friend who doubled as my bodyguard and all good kind of things, man, you were still on the air, Charles, wrapping up the post game. We told the person, tell them we're gone. We're out of here. we made our way around, and the fireworks are going off, and people are just happy. Then you have other people that are quiet. You know who those are? They're Southernites, and that's not a good feeling. But it's part of life. You have to win some, you lose some. But boy, that's a tough situation. So I can understand it. And passion, you love that about your fans, your alumni, your supporters. You gotta be passionate. So, with that being said, this game has all the makings of a good one. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. That's the way you have to look at it. And the winner goes on to face a North Carolina A&T team that, by the way, on social media, and I've been getting people telling me the A&T, usually they're quiet, they're confident, bring it on. Whoever makes it out of the swag, they're ready, right? You hear that. Now they're kind of getting a little bored. They've played Alcorn 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them say they want something new. They're going for Southern, but again, it goes back to who wins the game.
I agree with that, and I tell you what, you talk about passionate fan base, and we're gonna at the half we're gonna talk with the MEAC commissioner, Dr. Dennis Thomas. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I asked him, it was circulating out there on social media. I don't know if it was the truth or fake news that North Carolina A&T sold out of their Celebration Bowl allotment from the bowl within 24 hours, and he said that is absolutely the truth. And that's coming from the MEAC commissioner. So their fans are into it, and they're just kind of sitting back, waiting on the winner. And we'll get a chance to talk with him, and I'm gonna ask him about the MEAC. Is there a MEAC championship game in the offering? Because that's been talked about as well. That's been talked.
You think it's a possibility?
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say, I mean, there's some logistics that have to be worked out, but if it can be worked out, I do see somewhere down the road, maybe not in the near future, but sometime in the next few years, 3, 4, that I think that you're going to have a MEAC championship game. I might be wrong. I'm on the other side of the fence. I'm not on the MEAC side of things. But I do think because of what the SWAC has done, and the SWAC and MEAC kind of mirror each other in some ways, I do think if this is a revenue opportunity and ratings, and that's another thing that I'm going to ask Dr. Thomas about, because from my understanding, he gets heavily involved in these ESPN games. He kind of helps dictate the matchups because he wants good matchups on television for his conference. I'm going to ask him about that. That's kind of been rumored out there. But, for his conference and the maximum, the maximum exposure, I think a championship game will be something at some point in time. It's just my guess. I don't know. I don't have any inside information on that.
Well,
but if I were to take a look.
You have to ask the question. I understand that. My MEAC brethren, sometimes you got to bring them along. Remember with this Celebration Bowl, we'll see. Now you got them settled out in 24 hours. That's A&T. And to that point, because the SWAC has a football championship, you don't really know who's, you know what I'm saying? So Southern wins today, then there'll be a rush for tickets, I'm sure. Alcorn wins, there'll be a rush for some tickets. But they do have an advantage because they don't have advantage as far as securing tickets because they don't have a championship game.
That's right.
I just want to enter that into to the records. That's not to say that they don't travel. I've seen A&T there a few times. I've been to every one of the Celebration Bowl. But not having a championship game, you would think that they should be able to get tickets and purchase them quickly. But 24 hours, huh?
Yep, he confirmed that. Yeah. But then someone else posted it is true. The game is not a sellout. I mean, it's just the allotment that the bowl gives each school. So the allotment the bowl gave A&T, they were all sold out within a day, and that's good. I mean, that's good. Even though John Grant and I'm sure I'll ask, with Dr. Thomas this as well, a packed dome versus low ratings, which would he rather have? And you know what John Grant and Dr. McClellan have said about that when you answer that question, a packed dome or low ratings or high ratings or a packed dome, he'll take high ratings any time. It's great to have a full house, but you want to have a lot of eyeballs watching the game on television. So we'll talk about that as well. Because I think that's something we and I think all of us who support the SWAC and help build this brand, we need to continue to push that narrative because John Grant pushes it hard and Dr. McClellan pushes it as well, that we need to have good ratings for these games in order for these networks to continue to pick up these games, or else that won't be the case. I think ESPN dropped a bowl game recently. I think the New Mexico Bowl or one of those bowl games they're not sponsoring because of low ratings. So we need to pay attention to that. If you want a Celebration Bowl to continue to be on ABC or on Disney, if you want this to continue, it's great to come and support. That's great. It's terrific. It's wonderful. It looks good on TV, but it's all about ratings to keep it on television. So we need to keep that in the back of our psyche as we look at these games.
Yeah, Edwin says, a listener, only North Carolina A&T's allotment has been sold. SWAC winner will have their allotment to sell after today.
Right.
Yeah. I have another one to read quickly. Thank you, Mike. He says, who want that smoke? And he sent me that picture. Good one. Love you, Mike. He said, wish you were here, my brother. Get some of this smoke. Get well, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, a man with 1,000 pictures. That's what I say. But
more than 1,000.
Yeah. Very, very, very good. Very professional. Maybe one day, when I'm at the reservation after a win, I won't disrespect and stand on the midfield, but give me a shot just looking out over God's country and saying, finally, that W. Boy, now, wouldn't it be ironic if it happened today? I can't get there. But it is an important football game, and no matter who wins, I'm supporting the SWAC in this game because now I'm starting to get a little bit ticked off. I'm going to have to put A&T next to under FAMU as one of the teams that I ran across their fans years ago in Las Vegas, a football game with Southern defeated them. Very nice on the plane, very nice people. But now, maybe I have to start getting a little rivalry going with them. But hey, they've won on the field. They've had much success. They defeated FBS opponents, a very, very respectable opponent. But I'm going to go with the SWAC, whoever it is, December 21st. How you like that, Charles?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And of course, I'm pulling for the Braves today. And if they don't get it done, Southern gets it done. I'm pulling. I'm gonna wear some blue and gold because I'll be in Atlanta in a couple of weeks. I'll be pulling for the Jaguars. And I tell you what, Carlos. I mean, Braves fans gonna buy tickets to Atlanta, big time. If Southern wins, I wonder how quickly Southern's allotment of Celebration Bowl tickets. How quickly will that go?
Man, they starving. It's like shrimp and grits. People love it. I think they'll eat them. They'll eat them up. But, it's 4 days before Christmas this year. So, now, a starving fan base, they're going to eat. I think they'll represent themselves well. Well, Charles, have a great broadcast. Appreciate the time. And we'll talk next week. Someone's going to be happy. Someone's going to be disappointed.
Buckle up. I'm ready.
All right. Jaguars, you hear that? Are you ready? Appreciate it. Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. I want to thank Brandon B.J. Jones. Dr. Prince, no prediction for this game, right? As you stated in hour number one. Yeah. You're just going to watch?
I'm going to watch, and I'm going to predict that there will be a Southern champion crowned around 7 o'clock this evening.
Oh my! Now you the change.
Well, no, I told you, man. I told you there's a need for both. I'm thinking. You want me to pick one, right? You want me to pick somebody, right?
Whatever you feel comfortable with. I have no prediction, believe it or not.
Well, no, you gotta have a prediction, man. Well, we know what your prediction is. You want
somebody's
Southern
gonna win, somebody's gonna lose.
Right, but you want Southern to win, and if I had to pick one, wow, just because you're forcing my hand, I'm gonna go ahead and ride with the Odom train, man. I'm gonna ride with the Odom train.
Well, there you have it, folks. Dr. Brother Michael Prince predicts Southern University to get the. I wanted to say, no, I better not go with that one. That wouldn't be a good analogy. To get it off the back, get Alcorn off his back. 1-9, Alcorn's 1-9, Southern's 1-1. Eventually, that streak's got to end.
Soon.
Why not today?
Sooner or later.
Sooner or later, it's going to end. Why not today? That would be a good thing. Make sure you tune in next Saturday at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show. Heard, as always, exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Next week, we'll have the analysis of Southern Alcorn State. We'll talk some basketball. Let's see if we can get Coach Pettaway on the airwaves next week. Talk some college basketball, some Southwestern Athletic Conference basketball. But until that time, as always, peace and God bless.